Hi Daddy, hi Walker. I'm making veal piccata here. I have 2 packages of veal. If you get it sliced thin enough, don't bother pounding it. If it seems thick to you for what you like, pound it. In between either plastic wrap or wax paper. These are thin enough for what we're doing here. You can cut them either in halves or in 3, just depends on how big you want them. Depending also on the size of your pan. You're going to have to use a bigger pan if you cut them in 3. I mean, usually if I'm trying to stretch it, you know, I'll cut it in 3. But I think this will be good. I might need 3 out of this one though. Have to wash my hands after that and wash the knife. Then I'm going to have to count how many pieces I have, and then I'll wash my hands again. Once you cut it, get your pan out, whatever size you need. Get your pot out for the spaghetti or pasta, whatever kind you're making. Have a bowl to put some flour in or some wax paper, whatever you use. You're going to have a lemon, some chicken stock, flour, and something you can shake flour and water in. Oh, and you need capers and white wine. I use Barefoot Sauvignon Blanc. It tastes good and it's not sweet. What you don't want is some kind of sweet wine. Set your oven to 250 so that when you are through frying the veal, you can put it in the oven for, well, however long it takes you to make the sauce. Right now I'm cutting parchment paper to put on a cookie sheet to put these in the oven in order to keep them warm until we make the sauce and I put them back in the sauce. If you don't have parchment paper, then you could either spray it real lightly with some Pam or something like that, nonstick spray, or you can use aluminum foil, but if you make cookies like you make them, you may use parchment paper, and if you do, it's preferable. I'm just putting flour in the bowl because you don't bread these or anything, you just flour them. And you shake the flour off. I would salt and pepper the flour so that you're not putting too much salt and pepper right on the veal. And you can use veal or chicken. It doesn't really make any difference which one you use. But just make sure with the chicken, you're probably going to have to pound that, even if you buy chicken cutlets, because they tend to be a little bit thicker than what I've got here. So I don't know, maybe 6 tablespoons of that, depending on how much you actually have. I know you have gas, so it's not really a true medium-high. It's somewhere in between medium and medium-high. So anyway, mix in your salt and pepper and start heating up your pan, which is what I'm doing. I use olive oil because this is not real hot. The temperature's not real hot. So once you get whatever you think is reasonable, you don't want it to cover it or anything like that. You just want it to fry lightly. Pan is heating up. I'm going to zest a lemon, and then I'm only going to use about half of the lemon because it can get way too lemony, so I suppose it depends on taste. That might be trial and error. But we like it so it has a lemon flavor, but not overpowering what's going on. So there's the lemon zest in a bowl, and I'm going to put in half of the lemon. Squeeze in half of the lemon. You can do the trial and error thing. I'm using half because that's about how much we like, a half of a lemon. But you can use a whole one and zest more than one if you want to. Spreading the oil around. And I'm going to start the water for the spaghetti. Use any spaghetti you want. I use the refrigerated Buitoni kind like this. I'm filling the pot for the spaghetti, or I use linguine, but because I can't find Buitoni and I like the fact that it's not in a box. But again, use whatever you want. You can start your pasta water. Depends on how long it takes your pasta water to heat up. Mine takes longer because of it being electric. Yours probably go a little faster, so you can wait a little bit. All right. Letting my pan heat up, and then I can start making the veal. I also have chicken stock here that you'll see me use after this is cooked. Everything here has to cook first. Then after that, you add in chicken broth or chicken stock, lemon, the wine, and eventually capers. Okay, just starting to flour. Shake off all the excess flour. You don't need a ton of flour in there. You just want it to brown, that's all. And then when you get that all done, then you put it on your pan and put it in the oven to keep it warm. If it starts to look a little dry, just put some oil in the center. My stove is not even, so it always moves to the edges, but some of it will stay around it once you get enough food in there. I'm going to have to make 2 batches because it's too much. Don't overcrowd it. It'll steam, not fry. Okay, I'm turning them over. It doesn't matter if they're real brown because they're only going to be soaked in the sauce anyway. They just need to be done. Now the others will have to fry a little. Take them out about a minute or so before you think that they're really done. And that way, because they're still going to be in a 250-degree oven, while it's keeping them warm, it can also cook them too. So if you have some you'd rather see that aren't as anemic looking as that one, leave it in for another few seconds and take it out. Okay, these are just going in to stay warm. And I'm going to do the second batch, but I'm also going to put in some more oil because it's not enough. And then all that brown that you get in there is what you're going to use the chicken broth and the wine to deglaze, take it off the bottom, give the sauce some flavor. Turned it down to medium instead of between medium and medium high. I said once you're through with this second batch, if you have 2 of them, then put them in the oven with the rest of them until you're ready to, you've made your sauce and you're ready to put them back in. I would suggest not using a non-stick pan. And you won't get the same brown that you have in here in a non-stick. Okay, I'm going to put the rest of these on the sheet pan and hope that they all fit. Even if you have to double up for what we're doing here, it's fine by then. I already threw out the flour that I used to flour these. You can't use it for anything else. Okay, these are going back in the oven. Then I'm going to Turn it down just a little bit. The water's starting to boil. And I'm going to pour the chicken stock in first. You should probably have a couple of boxes of chicken stock on hand because you're going to have to see. I don't have any real measurements for this. So once you get some in there, I use this to try to get off the bottom stuff of the pan, the flour and meat drippings. Try to get as much off as you can. As this starts to get hot, it'll start to boil a little bit, which is a good thing, and it'll keep coming off of there. Okay. So after a few minutes of boiling with just the chicken stock, that's about what it'll look like. I still have a whole half a box. The water is boiling for the spaghetti, and you can throw in a bunch of salt. And because this is boiling, you can throw in the lemon juice and zest. And then just mix in the lemon juice. I don't know, probably put in about 1/3 of a cup of wine, something like that. You don't have to use wine. It just makes it taste a little bit better, but you don't have to use it. This pasta has been frozen, so it'll take about 4 to 5 minutes. If you buy it that day and you're going to use it that day, it only takes about 3 minutes to cook, to boil. So there it goes. I'm on high. I'm turning it down just a little bit so that it doesn't start overflowing all over the place. And you let that. If you don't have a mason jar, find whatever it is you have with a lid, an old peanut butter jar or something like that. Pour in about that much stock, and then put in, you know, about 3 tablespoons of flour. Maybe 4. Start with 3. And that should be enough. Okay, then I'm going to shake it really well. This part is actually better if you have real cold stock. Mine isn't. It's room temperature. But if you have cold, it works better. So if you have any leftover, it's probably a good thing. Well, once it starts looking about like that, undo it and look at it, because you're going to have a few lumps on the top of flour. And now's your chance to take them off. Oh, I didn't have any. Oh, good for me. All right. Okay, now you can start to make your sauce. I don't know. I think I'm going to add the rest of this. I don't think it's going to be enough with as much meat as I have. So I probably used 3/4 of the, about 2/3 of the stock in there and 1/3 in here, something like that. I don't have measurements. I can't tell you that part. Kind of, as I said, trial and error with some of this stuff. Here we have this really high-tech colander. I'm sure you have one that's better than this, but I have one, I just don't like it. But at any rate, so just have to keep an eye on the spaghetti, that's all. After about 4 or 5 minutes, test it. See if it's got a little bite to it. And then once this sauce boils is when you can start to add the flour and water, or flour and stock. Okay, the spaghetti's done. So dump the whole thing. Get out any leftovers. I put water in it just so it doesn't get real sticky. You could set that off to the side somewhere on a back burner someplace, or you have a whole lot more room than I do, so you know, you could probably find room a little bit more easily. To the spaghetti, first of all, it gives it a really nice smell and taste, but it also keeps the spaghetti noodles separate. Where's the thing? And I just give it a squish in here so that you can kind of keep it separated. Give this another shake. Put the lid back on, give it another shake before you start doing this. You may need more than one container of this, again, depending on how much liquid you have in here. And as you do this, this will start to thicken, but you have to let it boil in between each time. Just because it looks hot doesn't mean it is, so just the flour and stock will cook, and then it thickens. It's almost to boiling again. If you would run out of stock when you're doing this part, you can use real cold water and flour, and it won't change the taste. And just add it until it's as thick as you want it to be. Okay, it's boiling again. The bubbles are all over. Add the next third and let it boil again. And all the brown on the bottom is now off of the bottom, so the pan is clean. Okay, adding the last of the flour and stock, and that's really going to be it. And then once that boils again, then I'm going to take the meat out. Well, actually, that's not true. Once this is done, then I'm going to add in the capers. Take out any lumps from the last bits of the flour and stock. Look like that because it lumped up on the bottom, which you can't see while you're doing it. You can keep putting the lid on every time you do it, and that'll end that. These are pieces of flour, and you don't want to eat that because they're gross. Oops. Okay, these are capers that I've had. I mean, not for long, but anyway, so we like it with a lot of capers. You can put in as many as you want. I don't usually use all the brine that's in there. You got to kind of watch it because it can get way too briny and it'll taste like nothing but capers. This one has way more brine to it, so I'm just going to take some of these out and throw them in there. And then, what do you think? Is that enough? Or you want a few more? Some more. We like a lot of them, so I'm just not dumping this whole one because I know how much brine it is. It'll taste like nothing but capers. Okay, that's it. We're done. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to, where's that thing? Take these out. I took them out of the oven. I turned the oven off about 5 minutes ago once I got to the point where I knew this was almost finished, because they only need so much time in here. It's just to A, reheat them, but B, to get flavor on them. Because all by themselves, not as much flavor, so. And then once that's all done, you stir it around a little bit and you can eat. Hope it works for you. Sorry it took so long to get to you, but I haven't made it for a really long time. There's that. And you can turn it down to low just so that it starts to coat all of these as you get them all in. And give it about another 3 to 5 minutes to cook in there, and you'll be ready to eat. Happy birthday! After you serve it up, I have Parmesan Reggiano, and just put it all over it, and then it's time to eat. There they are.